You might have noticed that when someone asks where you are, you point to your chest, not to your head where thought happens, not to your feet where you stand. You point here to the center of the body as if to say, "This is where I live." And yet most of us spend our days somewhere else entirely. We live in plans and worries. We live in the glow of screens. We live in the next thing, the last thing, the thing we forgot to do. The body becomes a vehicle we ride in without really feeling the seat beneath us. There is an old image in the teachings of a house you have been away from for a long time. The doors are still there. The rooms are still there. But dust has settled. The windows need opening. You have been gone so long, you almost forgot the way back. Coming home to the body is like this, not a journey to somewhere new, a return to what was always here. The body does not argue with you. It does not tell you that you should be different or that yesterday was better. It simply is. Right now, it is breathing. Right now, it is holding a certain temperature, a certain weight. Right now, it is in contact with the chair, the floor, the air. All of this is happening whether you notice it or not. The body is the one part of your experience that is always in the present moment. It cannot be anywhere else. This is why the body becomes a refuge, not because it is always pleasant, not because it never aches or tires, but because it is real. It is immediate. It does not require belief or imagination. You do not have to think your way into the sensation of your hands resting. You simply feel it if you turn your attention there. Body scan meditation is this turning, a slow, deliberate return. You bring your attention to one part of the body and then another, not to fix anything, not to make the body different, just to feel what is already happening. To come back into the rooms of this house and notice what is there. In the beginning, this can feel strange. You might realize you have not truly felt your feet in days, or you notice tension in your shoulders that has been there so long it became invisible, like furniture you stopped seeing. The body has been sending signals, and you have been elsewhere, listening to something louder. The practice is simple, but it is not always easy. The mind will wander. This is not a problem. This is just what minds do. They move toward thought, the way water moves downhill. You will be feeling the sensation in your left knee, and suddenly you are planning dinner or replaying a conversation from last week. When you notice this, you have already come back. That noticing is the practice. You do not scold yourself. You do not start over. You simply return. Like opening the door to that house again, stepping back inside. What you find in the body is not always comfortable. There may be tightness. There may be numbness or restlessness. There may be old pain that has been waiting quietly for your attention. The practice is not to push these things away. It is to meet them, to feel them as sensation, not as story. The tightness in your jaw is not your failure. It is just tightness. The ache in your lower back is not a judgment. It is just ache. When you meet sensation this way, without adding commentary, something softens, not always in the body. Sometimes just in the mind. And sometimes, in the middle of the scan, you find something unexpected. A small ease you did not know was there, the coolness of the breath in your nostrils, the aliveness in your fingertips. A sense of the whole body breathing, not just the chest. These moments are quiet. They do not announce themselves, but they are real. They remind you that the body is not just a container for problems. It is also a field of sensation, of presence, of life happening now. The body is where you meet the present moment, not as an idea, but as a felt experience. This is the ground. This is the place you return to again and again, not because it is perfect, but because it is true. Coming home to the body is coming home to this moment, to this breath, to this single point of contact between you and the world. So we begin here in the simplest way, by feeling what is already happening, by noticing where the body meets the surface beneath it, by softening the effort to be anywhere else. We live most of our lives as if the body is somewhere else, not absent exactly, but distant, a vehicle we forgot we're riding in. We think from a place that seems to hover slightly above the shoulders, a few inches behind the eyes, and the rest of the body becomes backdrop. Furniture. We move through the day, something that carries the head from place to place. The Buddha spoke of the body as the first foundation of mindfulness, not the mind, not thought or intention or the stories we tell, the body. The ground where awareness meets experience. Everything we know arrives through this form. Every sound enters through ears. Every breath moves through lungs. Every emotion registers as tension or ease somewhere between throat and belly. And yet we treat it like a distant province, a place we'll visit when there's time. A bird lands on a branch it never left. This is what happens when we turn attention toward the body. There is no journey, no distance to cross. The body has been here all along, breathing, holding, sensing. We are the ones who wandered into thought and forgot to notice where we were standing. You can feel this forgetting in ordinary moments. Sitting at a table, reading, and suddenly realizing your shoulders have been clenched for the past 20 minutes. Walking from one room to another, and arriving with no memory of your feet touching the floor. Eating a meal and tasting only the first and last bites. The body continues, breath moves, heart beats, but attention is elsewhere, drafting a reply to an email, replaying a conversation, scanning for what comes next. This is not wrong. It is simply what the mind does. It reaches forward and backward, it narrates and plans, but the body remains here, in this moment, and when we meet it directly, something shifts, not dramatically, not with fanfare, just a quiet arriving. Like coming home after a long day and realizing you've been holding your breath since morning. The practice is simple. Place one hand on your chest. Let it rest there, warm and still. Feel 3 breaths move beneath your palm. Not controlling the breath, not deepening it or smoothing it out, just feeling it. The rise as air enters. The small pause at the top. The fall as air leaves. The body knows how to breathe. It has been breathing since before you had language for it. This is not a technique to master. It is a return. The hand on the chest is just a reminder, a way of saying to the body, I'm here now, I notice you. The breath becomes a thread you can follow back to presence. One breath, then another, then another. Each one landing you more fully in the only place you've ever been. When attention meets the body this way, you begin to notice what was already happening, the small ache in your lower back, the coolness of air moving through your nostrils, the weight of your body against the chair or the floor. These are not new sensations. They were present before you turned toward them, but now they come into focus. The body stops being background and becomes foreground, alive, specific, here. The bird on the branch does not need to learn how to perch. It does not need instructions or effort. It simply lands where it already is. This is the nature of coming home to the body. There is no arrival because there was no departure, only a forgetting, and then a remembering. Attention was scattered into past and future, into story and commentary, and now it gathers again in the place it never truly left. You might try this now. One hand on your chest, 3 breaths. Notice if the mind wants to narrate the experience, to label it or judge it or turn it into something. Let that be. The mind will do what it does. But beneath the commentary, the breath continues, the body continues, warm, solid, present. This is the ground the Buddha pointed to, not as a metaphor, but as direct experience. The body is where awareness and life meet. It is the place where suffering arises and where it can be seen clearly, where clinging shows up as tension. where aversion shows up as bracing, where peace shows up as ease. You cannot know these things from a distance. You cannot think your way into understanding them. You have to feel them. Here, now, in this body. Coming home requires no travel. The body has been waiting, breathing, holding you all along. You only need to notice. One breath, one moment of attention. The bird landing on the branch it never left. You can read about rain for hours. You can learn its chemistry, study the shape of droplets, memorize the names of storms, but none of that is the same as standing outside when it begins to fall. The coolness on your forehead, the weight of it soaking through your shirt, the sound it makes against leaves. Reading about rain gives you information. Feeling it gives you something else entirely. We do the same thing with the body. We think about it constantly. We plan for it, worry over it, measure it, judge it. We carry around ideas of what the body should feel like, what it used to feel like, what we wish it would feel like. But we rarely just feel it. This is not a small difference. When you think about the body, you are somewhere else. You are in memory or imagination or comparison. When you feel the body directly, you are here. The body is always here. Your thinking about it is what takes you away. The early teachings say to know the body in the body. Not the body as an idea, not the body as a project, the body as sensation, arising and passing. This is simpler than it sounds, but it requires a shift. You have to stop narrating and start noticing. Right now, without moving, notice one sensation in your feet, not the idea of your feet, not the word feet or the image of feet, just the actual sensation. Maybe there is pressure where your heel meets the floor. Maybe there is warmth or coolness. Maybe there is tingling or numbness or nothing you can name easily. Whatever is there, feel it directly. You might notice that the mind wants to label it immediately. It wants to say pressure or tingling and then move on. But the label is not the sensation. The label is thin and flat. The sensation itself has texture. It shifts slightly as you pay attention. It might grow stronger or fade or reveal smaller sensations within it. This is what it means to come home to the body. Not to think about coming home, not to imagine what home should feel like. Just to arrive in the direct experience of sensation. Most of the time, we live one layer removed. We feel something and immediately translate it into language, into story, into judgment. The knee aches and we think, this again, it's getting worse. I'm getting old. We have left the sensation and entered a narrative. The ache itself is just an ache. It arises, it has a quality, it changes. But the story we build around it is where the suffering multiplies. When you feel rain on your skin, you do not need to describe it to yourself. You do not need to compare it to other rain or decide if it is good rain or bad rain. You just feel it. The body is the same. Sensation does not need your commentary. It is already complete. This is not about forcing yourself to feel things you would rather avoid. It is not about becoming hyper-aware of every itch and twinge. It is about recognizing that the body is already speaking. You've just been too busy talking over it. Try it again. Notice a sensation anywhere in the body, maybe in the hands, maybe in the shoulders, maybe in the belly. Do not go looking for something dramatic. Just notice what is already present. Feel the temperature of the air against your skin. Feel the weight of your body where it makes contact with the chair or the floor. Feel the small movements of breath in the chest or abdomen. Stay with it for a few seconds. Not thinking about it. Not naming it unless the name arises naturally and then falls away. Just sensing. The sensation might stay the same. It might change. It might disappear entirely and leave you noticing something else. All of that is fine. You are not trying to make anything happen. You are just feeling what is here. The mind will wander. It always does. You will notice you are thinking about your schedule, or replaying a conversation, or planning what to say next. When that happens, you have not failed. you have just noticed. And noticing is the practice. Come back to sensation. One point of contact, one breath, one moment of feeling the body as it actually is. This is how you know the body in the body. Not as a concept, not as a memory or a goal, as sensation arising and passing, as pressure and temperature and movement, as something immediate and real. The idea of the body is always somewhere else. The felt body is only here. And here is where you have been trying to arrive all along. The body remembers what we try to forget: a tightness in the jaw, a dull ache between the shoulder blades, the chest that never quite opens all the way. We carry these sensations through our days, so familiar we stop noticing them. They become the background hum of being alive. But the body is not background. It is where everything we have not resolved comes to rest. There is an old teaching from the Zen tradition. The shoulder carries what the heart will not put down. Not as poetry, but as observation. When we cannot let something go internally, the body takes up the work. It grips, it braces, it holds the shape of an old argument, an unspoken grief, a worry that has no solution. And because the mind has moved on, or thinks it has, the body is left holding alone. A fist that forgot it's holding nothing. That is what tension often is. The hand closed tight around air. The muscles contracted around a threat that passed years ago or never arrived at all. But the fist does not know this. It only knows its job, which is to hold on. And so it does, day after day, until holding becomes its only language. This is not the body's fault. The body is doing what bodies do. It responds to what the mind signals. When the mind perceives danger, the body prepares. When the mind resists, the body tightens. When the mind refuses to feel, the body stores the feeling in tissue and bone. This is not pathology. This is function. The body is loyal. It will carry what we give it without complaint until we finally turn back and notice. Aversion lives here, in these places of tightness. Aversion is not just pushing away what we dislike. It is the refusal to meet what is already present. The shoulder that aches because we will not feel the sadness beneath it. The jaw that clenches because we will not speak what needs to be said. The belly that knots because we will not let ourselves rest in uncertainty. The body becomes the place where aversion takes form. And because we are averse to the tension itself, we add another layer. We tighten against the tightening. We resent the ache. We want it gone. And so the fist closes tighter. The practice is not to force it open. You cannot release tension by hating it. You cannot soften by demanding softness. What the body needs is attention without agenda. Not fixing, not improving, just meeting. Find one place of tightness right now. It does not need to be the worst place or the most obvious. Just one place where the body is working harder than it needs to. Maybe it is the back of the neck. Maybe the space between the eyebrows. Maybe the hands curled slightly even at rest. Let your awareness settle there. Not to analyze it, not to understand why it is tight, just to feel it as it is. Breathe toward that place. Not to push the breath into it, but to let the breath arrive there naturally, the way warmth spreads through a room. The breath does not fix anything. It does not dissolve tension on command, but it brings presence. And presence is what the body has been waiting for. Notice what happens when you stop trying to change it. The tightness may stay exactly as it is. That is fine. The practice is not about making it go away. The practice is about being willing to feel it without the layer of aversion, to meet the fist without prying it open, to let the shoulder be tight without resenting it for being tight. This is where the metaphor deepens. A fist that forgot it is holding nothing will not open because you tell it to. It will open when it remembers it can. And remembering happens through contact, not force. When you bring kind attention to the place that grips, You are reminding the body that it is safe to let go, not commanding it, reminding it. Sometimes the tension will soften, sometimes it will not. Sometimes it will shift to another place entirely, like water finding a new path. This is not failure, this is the body speaking. And what it is saying is not always, I am ready to release. Sometimes it is saying, I am still holding something you have not acknowledged. The body is not the enemy. The tension is not the enemy. They are messengers. When you can meet the tightness without needing it to change, something shifts. Not always in the body, though sometimes there too. What shifts is the relationship. The tension is no longer something you are at war with. It is something you are listening to. And in that listening, aversion begins to loosen its grip. The fist does not need to hold so tightly when it knows it is not alone. We often begin the body scan with a hidden mission. We want to find tension so we can fix it. We want to feel relaxed so we can prove we're doing it right. We want the body to cooperate, to become something other than what it is in this moment. The scan becomes a search party, moving through the territory with a checklist and a goal. But the body is not a problem waiting to be solved. It is simply here, breathing, holding weight, responding to the day. When we bring attention to it with an agenda, we are not really arriving. We are evaluating. We are managing. We are turning presence into a project. Attention without agenda is the beginning of compassion. This is not a poetic idea. It is a description of what happens when we stop trying to improve what we find. When the flashlight moves through a room, it does not look for dust or disorder. It simply shows what is there. A chair, a window, a corner in shadow. The light does not judge the room. It reveals it. In the same way, awareness can move through the body without hunting for something to correct. It can notice the weight of your head, the coolness of your hands, the pressure where your back meets the chair. It can feel the rise of the chest, the stillness of the belly, the faint pulse in your wrists. None of this needs to be different. None of it needs to mean anything. This is harder than it sounds. We have been trained to scan for problems. The body becomes a list of complaints or a report card of wellness. Tight shoulders mean stress. A calm breath means success. We forget that the body is not a symbol. It is a direct experience unfolding in real time without waiting for our interpretation. When you bring your attention to the top of your head, you might notice warmth or coolness. You might notice nothing at all. Both are fine. The practice is not to manufacture sensation. It is to let awareness rest where it is and notice what arises without adding commentary. If you feel tension in your jaw, you do not need to release it. You do not need to understand why it is there. You simply feel it. The tension is not wrong, it is present. Move your awareness slowly down through your face. Notice your eyes, your cheeks, the line of your mouth. You are not looking for relaxation. You are not grading the quality of what you find. The flashlight moves through the room, and the room is as it is. A window might be open, a shadow might fall across the floor. The light does not try to change this, it only shows. Continue down through your neck, your shoulders, your arms. Notice the weight of your hands. Notice the temperature of your fingertips. If your mind begins to narrate, telling you what this means, what you should do about it, just notice that too. The narration is also something arising. It does not need to be stopped. It can be seen. Move through your chest, your ribs, your belly. Notice the movement of breath without trying to deepen it or control it. Notice the pressure where your body meets the surface beneath you. The body is holding itself. It has been doing this all day without your instruction. You do not need to manage it now. You are simply noticing. Down through your hips, your thighs, your knees. Notice the weight settling. Notice any tingling, any warmth, any absence of sensation. The body does not owe you a particular experience. It is not required to feel peaceful or open or still. It is allowed to be exactly as it is in this moment. and your attention is allowed to rest with that. Move through your calves, your ankles, your feet. Notice the contact with the ground or the air. Notice the edges of your toes. This is the end of the scan, but it is not the end of awareness. The body is still here. It will continue to be here, breathing and sensing, whether you are paying attention or not. When you move through the body this way, without looking for anything, something shifts. The body stops being a task. It becomes a place you can return to, not because it is fixed or perfect, but because it is real. The flashlight does not improve the room. It simply shows what is already present. And in that seeing, without agenda, there is a quiet kind of care. Not the care that tries to change, the care that simply stays. We spend most of our lives trying to manage what we feel in the body. A tightness in the chest arrives, and immediately we want it softer. A dull ache settles into the lower back, and we begin negotiating with it, wishing it duller or gone entirely. The body becomes a project we are always revising, as if sensation was something we could edit into a final, comfortable draft. This is not wrong. It is simply what minds do when they meet discomfort. But it is also exhausting, because sensations do not stay still. They shift and dissolve and return in different forms, and no amount of wishing changes that. The Buddha observed this plainly. All feeling is impermanent, he said. It arises like clouds and dissolves like mist. Not because we make it so, but because that is its nature. When you sit quietly and bring attention to the body, you may notice this for yourself. Perhaps there is warmth in the palms. You rest with it, and after a few breaths, the warmth fades or moves or becomes something else entirely. Perhaps there is tension along the shoulders. You meet it, and it tightens briefly, then softens, then shifts to the neck. The body is not a fixed landscape. It is weather, always moving. And yet we treat sensation as if it should hold still. We want the pleasant ones to stay and the unpleasant ones to leave quickly. We believe that if we could just arrange the feeling tone of the body correctly, we would finally be at ease. But clouds do not wait for permission to drift across the sky. They appear, they change shape, they thin and dissolve. The sky does not hold them in place. It lets them pass. This is what the body scan asks of us. Not to fix or improve, but to notice what is already happening. You can try this now or later, whenever the body is available. Choose one sensation. It does not need to be dramatic. A tingling in the fingertips, a coolness of the nostrils, a subtle pressure where the body meets the chair. Let your attention settle there gently, the way you might watch a single cloud without needing to name it or judge its shape. Then breathe. Count 10 breaths if that helps you stay present. And as you breathe, notice what happens to the sensation. Does it stay exactly the same, or does it flicker? Does it grow sharper or softer? Does it spread, or does it fade at the edges? You are not trying to change it. You are simply watching it, the way the sky watches clouds open, still, without interference. What you may find is that the sensation does not remain fixed. It pulses, it shifts, it dissolves into something subtler, or it intensifies briefly before easing. Sometimes it disappears entirely, and you realize you cannot find it anymore, even though moments ago it seemed so solid. This is not failure. This is the body telling the truth. Everything felt is impermanent. It arises, it changes, it passes. And in that passing, something loosens. Because if sensations are always changing on their own, you do not need to manage them so tightly. You do not need to brace against discomfort or cling to pleasure. You can meet what arises, stay with it for a few breaths, and watch it move through like mist clearing from a valley. The body becomes less of a problem to solve and more of a process to witness. This is not detachment, it is not coldness, it is simply seeing clearly. When you stop trying to hold sensation still, the body becomes easier to inhabit. You are no longer at war with your own experience. You are present with it, breathing with it, letting it unfold in its own time. The relief comes quietly, not as a grand insight, but as a small release in the chest or the belly. A sense that you do not have to fix this moment, that the tightness or the ache or the restlessness is already shifting, already on its way somewhere else. Clouds passing through an open sky. You do not chase them, you do not push them away. You simply notice them moving, and you remain here, breathing, open, still. We often turn to the breath when we want to leave. When the body feels tight or restless or too loud, we focus on breathing to quiet it down. We treat the breath like an escape hatch, a way to rise above what we feel. But the breath does not lift you out of the body. It moves through the body. It lives there. The breath is not a refuge from experience, but a doorway into it. This matters because we spend so much time trying to get away. We sit down to meditate and immediately look for relief. The shoulders are tense, the belly is churning, the legs feel heavy. So we breathe and hope the discomfort will fade, and sometimes it does. But what we are doing is not meeting the body. We are managing it. We are using the breath to smooth over what we do not want to feel. The body scan asks something different. It asks you to feel where you are. Not to fix anything, not to soften or release or let go, just to notice. The breath becomes a guide, not a tool. It shows you where to look. Like a boat gently tethered to a dock, moving with the water but not drifting away. The breath keeps you steady, but it does not hold you still. It moves, and you move with it. Start with your belly, not your chest, not your nostrils, your belly. Place one hand there if it helps. Feel the rise as you breathe in. Feel the fall as you breathe out. This is not deep breathing. This is not controlled breathing. This is just noticing what is already happening. The belly moves because the lungs fill. The lungs fill because the diaphragm drops. The diaphragm drops because the body knows how to breathe. You do not have to do anything but feel it. Stay there for a few breaths. Let the hand rest. Let the belly rise and fall under your palm. You might notice tension. You might notice softness. You might notice nothing at all. That is fine. You are not looking for a particular sensation. You are learning to pay attention without deciding in advance what you should find. Now let the breath guide you. As you breathe in, feel the air move down into your belly. As you breathe out, let your attention spread a little wider. Feel the sides of your torso. Feel the lower back. The breath does not stay in one place. It fills the whole lower body. Let your awareness follow it, not with effort, not by forcing your attention. Just by noticing where the breath moves and letting that movement show you where to look. You might feel tightness in your hips. You might feel warmth in your lower back. You might feel the weight of your legs against the floor or the chair. These are not distractions. These are the body. The breath brought you here. Now you are meeting what is actually present. This is where the boat and the dock come back. The breath tethers you. It keeps you from drifting into thought or planning or judgment. But it does not hold you rigid. It moves with the water. The body shifts. Sensations change. The breath rises and falls. You stay connected, but you are not locked in place. You move with what is happening. From the belly, let the breath carry you further. Feel the chest, feel the shoulders, feel the arms resting at your sides. You do not have to scan in a strict order. You do not have to check every part like a list. The breath will show you where to go. One moment you feel the rise of the ribs. The next moment you feel the weight of your hands. The breath keeps moving and your attention moves with it. You are not trying to change anything. You are not trying to relax the shoulders or soften the jaw. You're just feeling what is there. If the shoulders are tight, you feel the tightness. If the jaw is clenched, you feel the clench. The breath does not erase these things. It brings you close enough to see them clearly. This is coming home to the body, not as a place you fix or improve, not as a problem you solve with enough attention, just as the place you are. The breath moves through it. Sensations rise and fall. You feel what is happening without needing it to be different. After a while, something shifts. The breath and the body stop feeling separate. You're not watching the breath move through the body. You're feeling the whole thing at once. The breath is the body. The body is breathing. There is no gap between them. This is not a special state. This is just what happens when you stop trying to leave. When you let the breath be a doorway instead of an exit. When you stay. There is a room in your house you haven't entered in years. You walk past the door every day. You know it's there. But something keeps you from turning the handle. Maybe you think there's nothing inside worth finding. Maybe you're afraid of what you'll see. Or maybe you've simply forgotten that the room exists at all. Your body has places like this, zones you move past without noticing. The left shin, the space between your shoulder blades, the small of your back. These areas don't hurt, so you don't think about them. They don't pulse with pleasure, so you don't return to them. They feel like nothing, and because they feel like nothing, you assume there's nothing there. But numbness is not emptiness. It's just an area you haven't visited in a long time. When you begin a body scan, you're often told to move your attention systematically from head to toe or toe to head. The instruction is simple. Notice each part. Feel what's there. But what happens when you arrive at a place that doesn't seem to respond? You bring your attention to your left forearm and there's no tingling, no warmth, no pressure, just a blank, a silence. And because you expect sensation, you assume you're doing it wrong. Or you move on quickly, looking for somewhere more interesting. This is where the practice actually begins. Not in the places that light up easily, but in the forgotten zones. The parts of your body that have learned not to speak. In Zen, there's a teaching that emptiness is not absence. It is the space where feeling has not yet been invited. This is not a poetic idea. It's a description of what happens when you stop rushing past the numb places and actually stay. Numbness is a kind of holding. The body learns to mute certain areas when they're not needed, when they're not safe, or when paying attention to them once felt like too much. A shoulder that carried tension for years might go quiet. A part of your back that no one ever touched might stop reporting in. These places don't disappear. They just stop asking for your attention. And so you forget them. You live in the louder parts of your body, the ones that ache or tingle or demand care. The quiet parts become like that room you never enter. Still part of the house, but no longer part of your life. When you bring your attention to one of these forgotten zones, don't expect fireworks. Don't wait for a wave of sensation to prove you're doing it right. Just rest there. Let your attention arrive the way light arrives in a room when you open the door after a long time, gently. Without force, you might notice that the numbness has texture. It's not actually blank. There's a faint heaviness or a sense of distance or a coolness you didn't name before. Or maybe there's still nothing distinct. That's fine too. The point is not to manufacture feeling. The point is to be present even when presence feels empty. This is harder than it sounds. We're trained to look for results. We scan the body expecting sensation to confirm that we're paying attention. But some parts of the body need time to remember that it's safe to be felt. They need your attention to arrive without agenda, without the demand that they perform. So you stay. You bring your awareness to your left hip, or the back of your neck, or the sole of your right foot, and you let it rest there, not pressing in, not searching, just being with that part of your body the way you'd sit quietly in a room you haven't visited in years. You're not there to fix anything, you're just there. And sometimes, after a while, the numbness shifts, not into sensation exactly, but into a kind of presence. The area begins to feel like it belongs to you again. like a part of the house you've reclaimed, not because you forced it, but because you stayed long enough to let it soften. Other times, the numbness remains, and this is where the real teaching lives. Can you meet that blankness with the same kindness you'd offer a place that tingles or aches? Can you let the forgotten zones be forgotten without needing to rescue them? Can you bring your attention there not to fix or awaken, but simply to include? The body scan is not about cataloguing sensations. It's about learning to be with your body as it is, not as you think it should be. The numb places are not failures, they're invitations. They're the parts of yourself that haven't been touched by awareness in a long time. And when you bring your attention there without pressure, without the need for them to change, something quiet happens. Not always in that moment, but over time, you begin to live in the whole house again, not just the rooms that are easy or familiar, all of it, even the places that feel like nothing, especially those. We think the body must be frozen to be felt, that if we're going to really notice sensation, everything has to stop moving first, the breath held, the limbs perfectly still, the face composed. Only then, we imagine, can we turn our attention inward and meet what's there. But the body doesn't work that way. A tree stands in open ground. Its trunk rises, rooted and firm, and yet its leaves are always moving. A breeze passes through. The smallest branches sway. Even on a windless day, there's trembling at the edges. The tree doesn't resist this. It doesn't try to lock its leaves in place to prove its stability. The stillness and the motion live together. Your body is like this. Even when you sit down to meditate, even when you've arranged yourself carefully and closed your eyes, the body continues. The heart beats, blood moves through narrow channels, the lungs expand and release. There are small adjustments in the muscles of your back, a slight shift in weight, a flutter somewhere near the ribs. The body is not a statue, it was never meant to be, and yet we bring this expectation with us. We sit down and immediately begin trying to hold everything in place. We notice the breath moving and think we should make it smoother. We feel a twitch in the shoulder and tense around it, as if stillness were something we could enforce. We treat the body like an unruly thing that needs to be controlled before it can be known. This is where the difficulty begins. Because when we insist that the body be frozen, we're already at war with what's actually happening. We're asking life to pause so we can examine it. And life doesn't pause. The pulse doesn't stop because we've decided to pay attention. The breath doesn't flatten into a straight line. Sensation keeps arriving, shifting, fading, returning. If you sit quietly now, you can feel this, not as a problem, just as fact. Notice the small movements, the rise and fall of the chest, the way the belly softens and tightens with each breath. There may be a tingling in the hands, a warmth or coolness somewhere along the arms. The body is always speaking in these subtle ways. And none of it requires you to hold still. You don't have to stop the breath to feel the breath. You don't have to freeze the heartbeat to notice the heartbeat. Awareness is large enough to hold both. The tree's trunk is steady even as its leaves move. Your attention can rest in the body even as the body continues its quiet work. This is what equanimity looks like here. Not the absence of movement, not the flattening of sensation, but the willingness to let the body be as it is while you stay present. To notice the pulse without needing it to slow. To feel the small shifts in posture without correcting them. To allow the breath its own rhythm, whatever that rhythm is in this moment. You might notice a tightness in the jaw. It's there, and then it softens slightly, and then it returns. This is not a failure. This is the body being a body. The leaves trembling. The trunk still rooted. You might feel restlessness in the legs, a small itch, a desire to adjust. And beneath that, the steadiness of sitting. Both are true. The body can hold both. What happens when you stop asking the body to be different? When you stop waiting for perfect stillness before you're willing to feel, the body becomes easier to inhabit. not because it has changed, but because you're no longer fighting what was already here. Sit for a moment and let your attention move through the body slowly. Start with the feet. Notice whatever is there. Pressure against the floor. Warmth or coolness, a sense of weight. The feet are not perfectly still. There may be small pulses, tiny adjustments, the body balancing itself without your instruction. Let it. Move to the legs, the thighs resting, the knees. Again, not frozen. There's life here, subtle sensation, the body doing what it does. You're not trying to stop it, you're just noticing. The belly, the chest, the shoulders, each area alive with small movements, the breath moving through, the heart beating. The body in conversation with itself, and your awareness simply resting here, not demanding stillness, not imposing control, just noticing what moves and what owes. The tree doesn't choose between its roots and its leaves. It is both at once, firmly planted and gently moving. You are the same. The body is both stable and alive. Stillness contains motion, and awareness can hold this paradox without needing to resolve it. We learn early that the body is ours. We say, my hand, my breath, my pain. And somewhere in that language, a story hardens. The body becomes a container. Inside it, we assume, is someone who owns the sensations, someone who feels the tightness in the chest, the coolness of the breath, the ache in the lower back. We carry this assumption so quietly that we never think to question it. We simply believe there is a self inside, receiving each sensation like mail delivered to a permanent address. The body scan is an invitation to look more closely, not to improve the body or relax it, though that may happen. Not to master sensation or control it, but to see what is actually here when we pay attention. To come home, yes, but to discover that home is not what we thought. When you bring awareness to the left foot, something arises. Maybe warmth, maybe numbness, maybe a faint pulse. The sensation is clear, but where is the one who feels it? This is not a riddle to solve with thinking. It is a question that invites you to look directly, not into your thoughts about the foot, but into the experience itself. You might notice the sensation, you might notice the knowing of the sensation. But can you find the knower standing behind it, separate and solid, holding the experience at arm's length? A wave rises in the ocean and asks, who is the ocean? It looks for something beneath itself, something other than water and motion. It searches for a core, a center, a self that is doing the waving. But there is only the rising and falling. There is only water taking a shape briefly and releasing it again. The wave is not separate from the ocean. It is the ocean moving. In the same way, sensation arises in the body, pressure in the shoulders, a tingling in the palms, the breath filling the belly. Each one is vivid, undeniable. But when you look for the one who is feeling these things, when you search for the experiencer behind the experience, what do you find? Not a blank void, not an absence, but also not a solid, separate self. There is only the knowing, sensation and awareness appearing together inseparable. This is what the Buddha pointed to. Sensation arises, but no one is standing behind it. There is contact, there is feeling, there is perception. But these are processes, not possessions. They do not belong to a permanent owner. They simply occur, the way weather occurs, the way light moves across a room. You can test this gently. Bring your attention to the hands. Notice whatever is present. Maybe warmth, maybe coolness, maybe nothing distinct at all, just a vague sense of presence. Now ask softly, where is the one who feels this? Do not answer with a concept. Do not point to your head or your heart and say, there, that's me. Instead, look into the actual experience. Is there a feeler separate from the feeling, or is there just the feeling known? You might notice a thought that says, I feel this. That is fine, notice the thought. But then look again. The thought is also something that arises. It is not proof of the self. It is another wave, asking who the ocean is. The body scan becomes a laboratory for this insight. You move through the body slowly. Feet, legs, hips, belly, chest, arms, hands, throat, face, head. At each place, sensation arises or does not arise. And at each place you can ask, who is here? Not as a mantra, not as a technique to force a result, but as a genuine inquiry, a willingness to see what is true. Sometimes the question lands and the mind goes quiet. The sensation is still there. The awareness is still there. But the sense of a separate self, standing apart and claiming ownership, softens. It becomes transparent. You realize you have been looking for something that was never solid to begin with. The wave realizes it has always been ocean. This does not mean you disappear. It means the story of separation loses its grip. Sensation still arises. The body still moves and breathes. But the assumption that there is a fixed self inside, receiving it all, begins to loosen. What remains is simpler. Sensation, knowing, space. You do not need to achieve this. You do not need to make the self vanish through effort. You only need to look. And when you look clearly, without adding or subtracting, the assumption reveals itself. It was always just a thought, repeated so often it seemed true. But when you meet experience directly, the thought is optional. The wave does not need to ask who the ocean is. It can simply rise and fall, water moving as water moves. This is coming home to the body, not to a container with someone inside, but to the direct knowing of sensation, moment by moment, without a center. We begin most body scans the way we might inspect a car before a long drive, starting at the crown of the head, moving through the face, the neck, the shoulders, checking in, noticing tension here, warmth there. It is methodical, it is careful, and it keeps us at a distance. There is nothing wrong with this, it is a doorway. But if we stay in that posture too long, we remain the one who looks. The body becomes the thing looked at, and the gap between the two never closes. A river does not observe the water. The river is the water moving, pooling, rushing forward, or slowing in the shallows. There is no separation, no observer standing on the bank taking notes. The current does not scan itself, it simply flows. This is what the Zen tradition points to when it says you are not in the body. The body is where you appear, not as a container holding awareness, but as the living ground from which awareness arises. Breath happens here, sensation happens here. The pulse in your wrist, the weight of your hands resting on your lap, these are not objects you are witnessing from somewhere else. They are the texture of being itself. We forget this because we have been trained to treat the body as a problem to solve, something to manage, improve, or fix. We scan it the way we might scan a document, looking for errors. And in that looking, we create the very distance we are trying to heal. Compassion begins when we stop treating the body as separate, when we stop asking it to perform or behave, when we let it simply be what it is, tired, tense, soft, alive. Lie down or sit comfortably. Close your eyes if that feels right. Take a few breaths, not to relax, but just to notice that breath is already happening. The body is already breathing you. Now, instead of moving your attention through the body like a flashlight beam, let your awareness rest as the body, not in it, as it. Feel the whole field at once. The weight, the temperature, the subtle hum of aliveness that does not need to be named or located. If the mind wants to scan, let it. But do not follow that impulse with effort. Just notice that the habit is there. Then soften back into the whole, like a river that stops trying to map its own current and simply flows. You might feel the breath moving in the chest. You might feel the heaviness of your legs. You might feel nothing distinct at all, just a quiet presence. All of this is fine. The practice is not to find something, it is to stop standing apart. When we scan the body, we are kind, we are patient, but we are still the one doing the scanning. And as long as there is a doer, there is a gap. The invitation here is to let that gap dissolve, not through effort, but through release. The body does not need you to check on it. It is already here, breathing, pulsing, sensing the air on your skin, the weight of your bones. It has been doing this your whole life without waiting for permission. What if you are not the one observing the body, but the body itself, aware? What if awareness is not located in your head, looking down, but distributed through the whole field, fingertips, belly, soles of the feet? This is not a metaphor. This is direct experience, available right now. Rest here. Let the breath move where it wants to move. Let sensations arise and fade without tracking them. If you notice yourself scanning again, that is fine. Just soften. Let the flashlight widen into floodlight. Let the river remember it is also the water. There is no goal, no endpoint where the body finally feels a certain way. Just this quiet return, again and again, not to the body as an object, but as the living ground you have always been. Stay here as long as it feels natural. Not because you should, but because the body itself will tell you when the practice is complete. When there is no longer a sense of you attending to the body, when there is just breath, sensation, presence, no separation, no watcher and watched. Just this. The body is always here. That may sound simple, but it is worth feeling into. Right now, wherever you are, the body is breathing. The heart is beating. The skin is touching air or fabric. These sensations do not wait for permission. They continue whether we notice them or not. What changes is our attention. We forget, we drift into plans or memories or worries, and the body becomes background. Then something calls us back. A breath, a tightness in the shoulders, the coolness of the floor beneath bare feet. And we return. This returning is not failure. It is the practice itself. Each time you bring awareness back to sensation, you are practicing trust. You are learning that presence does not require perfect focus. It only requires beginning again. The body does not judge how many times you have wandered. It simply receives you when you arrive. Over time, this returning becomes familiar, not automatic, but easier. You begin to notice the moment before tension builds. You feel the first stirring of restlessness or fatigue. These signals were always there, but now you are listening. And listening without urgency is a kind of kindness. The body changes constantly. Breath moves in and out, temperature shifts. Sensations arise and fade. Even as you sit still, the body is not static. Cells are working, blood is flowing. This is impermanence at its most intimate. Not something to fear, but something to feel. When we meet impermanence in the body, we meet it gently. We do not need to grasp at comfort or push away discomfort. We can simply notice that everything moves. Pain softens, ease fades. Tension releases, calm returns. The body teaches us that change is not collapse, it is continuation. This understanding does not come all at once. It comes in small moments, a single breath where you feel completely present, a few seconds where the mind is quiet and the body is vivid. These moments are enough. They do not need to be extended or repeated on demand. They are simply true when they happen. Some days the body will feel easy to sense. Other days it will feel distant or numb. This too is part of the practice. We do not scan the body to achieve a particular state. We scan to meet what is already here. Sometimes that is warmth and openness. Sometimes it is fatigue or soreness or nothing much at all. All of it is welcome. The body is not a project. It does not need to be fixed or optimized or transcended. It is the ground of awareness, the place where life is felt. When we come home to the body, we are not arriving somewhere new. We are recognizing where we have always been. This recognition is quiet. It does not announce itself. It simply settles in, like dust falling after a long walk. And in that settling, there is rest. Not the rest of sleep, but the rest of not needing things to be different. The rest of presence without agenda. You can return to this practice whenever you wish. It does not require special conditions. You do not need silence or stillness or a particular posture. You only need willingness. The willingness to feel, to notice, to come back when you drift. If you found something steady here, you might explore other practices that work with the body and breath. There are meditations on breathing itself, on walking, on the simple act of sitting. Each one is another doorway into presence, another way to meet experience directly. But there is no hurry. This practice is enough. Returning to the body is enough. Feeling what is here is enough. The body will continue. The breath will continue. And you can continue with them gently, without force. Not because you must, but because it is possible. Because presence is always available. Because coming home is not a destination. It is simply this. Here. Now. Breathing. Thank you for practicing. May you meet yourself with kindness. May you return again and again with ease.